Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
We are live, episode 347 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday evening, May the 17th. It is World Expo Beer Weekend here in Michigan, so we hope you are having fun up in Frankenmuth. Let's go around and see what everybody is drinking, starting with myself from Batch Brewing. I've got a nice can of the Old Guard pre-Prohibition lager that was in collaboration with the Detroit Free Press. Wendy, what do you got over there?
Well, in honor of American Craft Beer Week, I went with two different beers. I've got a Wildness Alaskan cold beer, because that's the farthest I have gone in America to get a beer. And from close to home, it is no rules time. So I have the Vietnamese coconut porter high bank coffee variant.
Daniel, what do you got over there?
So, yeah, I totally forgot it's Craft Beer Week, but I guess I went with one of the oldest because I couldn't decide. So I got a Sierra Nevada Pale.
Every week is Craft Beer Week here on Better on Draft. Rob, what are you drinking?
I've got myself a Terrapin Luau Crunkles.
Well, somebody came prepared because today we do have a guest in studio. It's been a minute. Let's welcome Spike to the show. Spike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been in the business.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. That would be the number one thing to get out of the way. My name is Brian Spike Buckowski. I am the co-founder and brewmaster of Terrapin Beer Company. We just celebrated our 22nd anniversary this year in April. So we are a big 22. We were able to drink legally last year, but this year we are a full year in.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show. Now let's get the elephant out of the room and explain that obviously it is quote unquote craft beer week, as I use that loosely. Craft beer, we believe, at least not by the brewer's definition, is beer that you enjoy, that is different and something that you can enjoy to drink. Terrapin is not considered craft beer by the Brewers Association due to their ownership of Molson Coors, which is perfectly fine. Because I want to hear from you. What are some of the positives, the things that you guys get for being under the umbrella of Molson Coors? 10th and Blake, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah, so 10th and Blake is the craft brewing division of Molson Coors, right? And we've been in part in that group for about 8 or 9 years now. And you know, when John and I looked at the business and kind of looked at where craft was going, if you remember when Ballast sold for $1 billion and there was a lot of chum in the water, if you will, you know, we finally looked at each other and, you know, we looked at the numbers that were presented in front of us. We looked at the opportunity to keep Terrapin as a viable business, to secure jobs for our employees, as well as great health care. And we couldn't say no to that. And, you know, you guys probably don't know this. A lot of people don't know this. And hopefully one of these days, John and I will write a book. But at the time when we got involved with 10th and Blake and Molson Coors. Well, now it's Molson Coors. Before it was Miller Coors. We were actually going through a hostile takeover with our original investors. And that was a lot of sleepless nights that John and I had to go through. So we were going through some very hard times, and Miller Coors really helped us out and got us out of a jam. And I honestly would do it 10 times over.
Are there any misconceptions that you hear a lot of people talk about when a buyout, a ownership change like that happens?
Personally, I have not seen any, right? I think if Molson Coors came in and changed the whole scope of our business and told me I had to brew a light lager or whatever the style would be of the day, and to dictate what we do as a business, I'd have a very hard time with that, right? I mean, Yes, they are our parent company. Yes, we have to supply them with numbers, right? We're a viable business. We obviously show them what we're doing, why we're doing it. But if somebody had strings over my head and telling me what to brew and how to brew, honestly, I wouldn't be involved with this company anymore. They give me the freedom to do what I want. I think our beer speaks for itself. And I think if the powers that be started meddling in what Terrapin does as a business and who we are as a company, I don't think it would work. And in the past, there have been breweries that have been bought out by larger breweries, and those larger breweries start to meddle in those smaller breweries, and they just don't do well, and they lose all their authenticity. Our headquarters are still in Athens, Georgia. I still go to work every day. Dustin is the president of the company. I mean, the only time we have to meet with people most of the time is just, board meetings, obviously, right? And they help us strategize and they give us numbers of what's going on in the business and things like that. But as far as day-to-day operations, you're looking at it. There's about 4 of us that have the reins and run the company.
That sounds it sounds like a good place to be in right now. It sounds like you kept pretty true to everything that's been going on, so my first experience with Terrapin was way back in the early 2000s. I was traveling for work, and you guys were one of the first beers I ever muled back to. I'm pretty sure I brought it back to Chicago when I was living there. Yep. Of course, Hopsecutioner, I think, is what I would have brought back.
Sure.
And I was happy to see that still on shelves, although I didn't pick one of those up today. But yeah.
Yep, that is our flagship beer, still going strong. Honestly, the one that's most near and dear to my heart is the Rye Pale Ale. We don't make that beer anymore, but that one was the one that we came out with in 2002, entered the JABF. 6 months later, we won a gold medal for best pale ale in the country. And, here we are 22 years later. So that one's got a special place in my heart.
So that was one of the questions that I had kind of for you is I saw that you had won a medal then. Do you still do festivals? Do you still enjoy festivals with contests? Are you still playing that game?
How do I say this sensitively? Because we're not craft, I don't enter in the GABF or the World Beer Cup. I do enter other competitions, but it's hard when an organization doesn't recognize who you are. It's hard to play in that game, if you will. So that's it on that.
Yeah, that kind of illustrates some of the silliness, because I would, by taste at least, and difference, I would still consider you guys to be making craft beer, right?
Without a doubt. And I've got a lot of friends in the craft brewing industry, and I know a lot of people at the BA. And honestly, when the GABF starts getting sponsored, by a spirits company and Buffalo Wild Wings, I have to just shake my head and go, okay, that's where we are. I mean, we were taught for years that the spirits companies were our enemy, right? And now they're sponsoring the GABF and Buffalo Wild Wings, right? Where Bud Miller and Coors, they were there every year. I mean, I've been in this business since the 90s, right? And a lot has changed, some for the better, some for not. But, here we are.
Yeah. No, thanks. So kind of a bit of a shift of subject. I was looking into some of the things you guys are doing, and I saw the Brewing Education Scholarship Fund, which seemed really neat, but can you talk about that?
Yeah, so that was put in place at Tennessee State, right? And it was minorities in the brewing industry and how we can help out. And I think we're on our 3rd or 4th candidate. But yeah, they come down, do an internship at the brewery, and really get their feet wet on how to get involved with the industry. It's just a really good way that we can lend a hand monetarily and using our facility to better educate people who want to get in the brewing industry, you know?
Sure. And it looked like that was part of the fermentation sciences degree through the
Correct.
university, right? So
Mm-hmm.
do you get to like, I don't know, would you be like experiment? Do they, what are they doing there? Are they working with experimental yeasts? Are they doing, experimental methods and things that you get to take advantage of?
At the university themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and with your intern?
Yeah, well, as an intern, right, they would spend, a couple days shadowing the brewmaster, right, or shadowing the brewers, and then, the next couple of days on the packaging line, right, on the keg line. So they actually go around, and basically learn all the stations in the brewery and learn what the business is about, right? Not too much on sales, but mostly on production.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty good opportunity for people.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, because for me, how I got in the business, I volunteered, right? And I thought that was a great opportunity because I still had a job. Not that I really liked what I was doing at the time, but I thought to volunteer, this was actually at a brew pub in Atlanta, to see if I wanted to pursue the dream of brewing. Right. It wasn't just, oh, yeah, this is a cool idea. And then, you become a brewer and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have to sweat every day. And, I get beer all over me and I get yeast and I've got to sweep and I've got to clean and I've got to squeegee and I've got to, clean drains and all that. Right. So for me, it was, I already had, I graduated from college. I already had a job. Not that I liked it. I wanted to change careers because I love the hobby, but I really needed to put on the brewing boots, if you will, to see if I wanted to pursue the career. Because a lot of people think, oh, yeah, brewing, yeah, it's so fun, man. I do it at home, blah, blah, blah. And then they get into it and they're like, holy crap, it's work, right? So it's like working in a factory. I mean, it really is. I mean, you're a glorified janitor. Let's be honest. I mean, the first rule of brewing is cleaning. The second rule, cleaning. The third, one more time, cleaning, right? So it's not all, the end product is fantastic, right? We sit around, we talk about beer. We love to bullshit about it, how good it is, how you made it, what the ingredients are, the romance about it. But dude, walk a mile in my shoes when I was coming up in this industry, putting glue on labels and getting it in your hair and your hands and sweating and oh man, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But you do it because you love what you do.
I always hear about the little snacks that come with the brew supplies.
Oh yeah, little nut rolls once in a while. Yeah, that happens.
I was going to go ahead and hand it over to Wendy after this. But as a home brewer, I also I am a home brewer, and yeah, the cleaning part has never been the most fun part. And I'm also a bottler, so that's the big headache there is cleaning all those bottles. But yeah, it's the alternative seems to be to invest in all the keg system.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, speaking of making beer and how much work it is, my question is, what is the favorite beer that you have made so far?
Oh man, we touched on the rye pale a little bit. To dream up a beer, right? Don't forget, we started in 2002, right? And we started in Georgia, and 90% of the drinkers down in Georgia when I was coming up, home brewing in 92, right? We launched in 2002. They drank a lot of Bud Miller Coors, right? It was fizzy yellow beer. Right. So for me to actually produce a beer that a normal beer drinker could drink and then go on and win a gold medal at the GABF was a huge feather in our hat. Right. And basically, when I sat down, I thought about my drinking days in college, how we drank a lot of rye whiskey, how it kind of cleaned up your palate. Right. So I threw in 10% rye. I used, low cohumulone hops like Magnum, EKG, Fuggle, Cascades, and basically all the flavor and aroma was up front, that as you took that sip and swallowed, that rye cleaned up your palate and there was no lingering bitterness and you were ready for another sip. And that's how I think we got that beer to the masses at the time, where honestly in 2002, that beer was pretty aggressive at 35 BUs, right? Not anymore, obviously. But, back then that was a pretty big beer. Now you see IPAs at 35 because they're juicy, hazy IPAs, but that's a whole another topic. So
I was in December, I was at the Athens brewery, and
Yep.
I had the watermelon goza, which I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was leaving, I was going to take some home with me. And the girl that was at the register said, "Did you try the tequila one?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She talked me into bringing home the tequila one, and I am kicking myself all kinds of ways because I did not bring more than 1 4-pack home. That was one of the best beers that I've ever had, and it's actually got me searching out other watermelon gozas to see how much see if I like them as much. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, thanks. And when just as a backstory, I met my buddy Murph. So I went to brewing school. A guy named Murph, I'm still friends with him to this day. Lives out in the West Coast, right? And he knew Fal Allen when Fal was at Pike, right? So when we wanted to come out with a watermelon goza, the only one I knew about was Anderson Valley and Fal's watermelon goza. So I had to have that and taste it and go, okay, I need to make a beer just as good as Fal's, because Fal is an outstanding brewer, and you just can't put on any crappy watermelon goza. No, it has to be at least as good as Fal's, right? So, but the tequila one, I mean, that one was fantastic. We did that for a couple years. Honestly, I love the tequila one, but man, those barrels get so beat up. I mean, we've wasted so much beer on leakers. I don't know what they do down there, but man, they come up pretty beat up. But that was fun doing that.
So that brings me to my next question. So we here at Better on Draft have a ongoing flight or no flight conversation that's been happening.
Hold on, it's just one person that says no flight. Let's be real.
That's true. So when I was visiting Athens, I asked for a flight, and they said, "We have flights, but we have this taster thing that you can do." And they sold me a pint glass and some tickets, and I could get I think it was half pours of 5 different beers, and I thought that was a really awesome way to do things. And I know that was kind of a throwback to the way it was done before the laws changed.
Yes.
So curious.
Yes, Scott, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
It's okay. I know it was a long-winded question. I'm curious as to whether it was just a nod to those old laws or if you kept it for a specific reason.
We kept it for a specific reason because after they changed that law and we were starting to charge by the pint, people got a little angry. So they wanted, I guess, people, it's hard for people to change, right? So they wanted to do their flight. They wanted to do their tasting. It was, I think it's, 6 tickets for 4-ounce pours, right? So we said, sure, why not? You can buy pints or you can do the taster or, whatever you want. So, to keep our customers happy, we're like, sure, we'll sell you the pint glass and the 6 tasters, no problem. So
and I got to bring home a pint glass, so it worked out well for me. I really liked it.
Well, we live in a college town, right? So kids need those pint glasses, right? So I'm sure you go to anybody's dorm room or off-campus housing, and you open them, and there's brewery pint glasses everywhere flying out of there. So
I'm sure it's probably pretty hard to hold on to them at the brewery sometimes.
Well,
that's one of my big pet peeves. I had friends that used to steal glasses all the time. Yep. And as I started to get to know people in the industry, I'm like, stop taking their glasses.
Correct.
Just said it's only $5 for Pete's sakes. Yeah. So would you care to weigh in on the flight or no flight debate? How do you feel about flights?
In a brewery setting or brew pub setting?
Yeah.
Well, I have more. So I think the question for me is, I'll throw it back at you. What do you think about free tasters? Right. So can I go into a pub and go, oh, can I try your pills? Oh, can I try your Kolsch? Oh, how about that Dunkel? And by the time I'm done with my 6 free tasters, I've had a flight, right? So personally for me, I'd rather say, okay, we do flights and it's, I don't know, $10 for, 2 ounces a piece, right? So I think it goes a little bit both ways. I don't have a problem with it. Not that we do or don't do it, but I kind of like them because I travel a lot. And when I walk into a brewery or a brew pub, I kind of want to try all of their beers. And I'm not going to do that 16 ounces at a time. Right. So I like the flight concept. I mean, I can. Don't get me wrong. I can do it 16 ounces at a time. So don't look at me like that. I can do it, but I prefer, moderation.
You might not be walking out of the brew pub.
That's right.
I'll say real quick my piece, which is that we need to have more smaller options, even for the lower ABV beers. Half pints should be a mainstay in craft beer these days. If you're going to a brewery, I think it's I get the fact that you want to try all of these different beers, but in twofold, like if you are a brewer and I'm going to try 5 different beers and I'm going to try your 5 different IPAs and I got my Untapped ready to go to give my true to style feel of each of those beers, 4 IPAs and I think you had like a sweet stout. I really don't like from the business side. I don't see it as a positive because I feel like that's not going to be a true fair representation of what your beer is going bang, 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 bang. But 2, from the service side, having all of those beers, like having to pour the small little flight tasters for each one, you're not going to get the beer to have foam and settle. It's not going to pour right. Like, I feel like there's too many negatives for me to be team pro flight. I am the one that is team anti-flight, if you haven't guessed already. But yep. I think we need to start promoting smaller portions. I think we need to start promoting 8-ounce or 6-ounce glasses for a Dunkel, for a lager, for amber, where the beer is only 4 to 5% ABV, but I don't want to have an entire pint. I want to try 2 or 3 different beers, but I don't want to try, a bunch at a time. Like that's just for me personally, obviously.
And me being a brewer, right? When I go into a new town, right, or a new state, I'm probably going to hit 3 or 4 different breweries in a day, if not more. Like I said, if you dare me, I can drink it, but it won't be, I'll be sloppy, So I get both sides of the argument, but I'm a flight guy. I want to taste at least 4 to 6 beers that you have to offer so I can go to the next brewery. And usually I'll split it with somebody, right? So we'll split it. And then I'm like, okay, man, that freaking porter was great. I'm getting a pint of porter. And boom, I'm done. So
that's how I do it too. I totally agree with that. So moving on, the Terrapin was already a really strong player in the Georgia beer scene when those laws changed. What effect did that have on your business when it happened?
Which law? The laws that we were able to
on-premises consumption.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge, right? Because you mean to tell me you can't walk into a brewery and buy a case of beer if you like it? Yeah, that was tough. So, I mean, the laws that we had where you can buy the pint glass, but then I have to give you the beer, right? So now most of the time people will come in. Let's use Watermelon Goza for an example. Boom. I love this beer. Well, hey, you know what? You can buy a 6-pack or you can buy a case or a 12-pack right over there. So, yeah, it's been fantastic. I wish we can move the needle more, of course, but, baby steps and here we are. But, yeah, it's helped out a lot.
Yeah, that kind of answers my next question, which was I didn't realize that there was a limit on how much beer I could buy leaving, like to take home with me. So I brought 2 4-packs home. If I'd have bought a case, I wouldn't have been able to get something else.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it's 1 case per person per day.
Yeah.
I
So
believe that's the.
is that something you guys are trying to change at all?
There's always they always try to change a lot of things. Nothing seems to pass. I think the big hot button right now that basically got overruled, if you will, was we have brewers that are entering the business, but they're starting with a 2 or 5 barrel system, right? So in Georgia, you have to distribute, right? I mean, people can come and buy your beer all day long, but you cannot self-distribute. So, I mean, for me, if I'm putting my brewer hat on and I go through distribution, so this is not a knock on the distribution side, right? So I go through a distributor. But if I'm starting with a 2 barrel system and I'm going to brew, let's just say 800 barrels my first year, you as a distributor, do you really think you're going to waste your time on trying to sell 800 barrels of beer? Right. So my whole argument, which is not an argument because I'm not in that situation, would be let me sell 5,000 barrels a year. Then I come to you and I go, hey, I've got all these accounts. I've done all this legwork. I have 5,000 barrels of beer for you to sell for me, instead of going to you and go, hey, I'm just starting and I have 2 beers and I'm on a 2 barrel system. Will you sell 3 6-packs a week for me? Probably not. Right. So it's difficult. I mean, like I said, I am not in that situation. We distribute. I don't have any problems with my distributor, but it must be so hard for these little guys to get out in the world, right? To get their product on the shelf because they have to use a third party. So there's that.
I don't remember if it. Sorry, Wendy. I don't remember if it was Red Brick Brewing in Atlanta that I had visited a long, long time ago, where they did a tour, and then I was able to get tasters, and that might have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but yes, I believe that years and years and years ago, I think that was part of it. You had to take a tour to get the beer. The beer couldn't be sold to you. You had to buy the pint glass, take the tour, and then the beer was given to you. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's how it was.
Yeah. Okay. I feel safer though.
Right.
Which some of the breweries that I went to in Atlanta were small enough that you could literally tour it by turning in a circle.
True. Yeah. And what constitutes a tour? What are you touring?
Right.
I don't know. Look through that window. There's the brewery over there. I mean, I don't know. What constitutes a tour? I have no idea.
But I thought they were very innovative in getting their beer out there, though. So there's that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenge, but maybe someday. I don't know.
So while we're still talking about the tap room, since I was there recently, I have all kinds of stuff that I remember from being there. And I am huge into sustainability and what breweries are doing to lessen their carbon footprint. And I was really impressed with the Terrapin initiative. So I was hoping you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have our initiative. Terrapin is basically our sustainability initiative. We've got 720 solar panels up on the roof. We're actually the only craft brewer in the state of Georgia that has our own wastewater treatment facility. We are almost fully recyclable with all of our products. I think about 2 weeks ago, we moved to shrink wrap that is now recyclable. So we just did that. So we're trying to be a zero fill, a landfill facility. So, we just think, if you guys have visited Athens and, the community and what Athens stands for, it's just the right thing to do in our community. And we're really proud at Terrapin what we do in our sustainability. I actually this morning, part of our sustainability is our food pantry, right? We serve food to people every third Friday of the month or whatever it is. And I was there volunteering today, and we were putting boxes in, and people would come up and, Athens, some parts of Athens are very underserved, and people need to eat, and we help them out. So, anything that we can do to give back to the community and be good stewards of the community, we really try and do that.
All right. I want to go back to something you guys mentioned when Rob was asking you some questions, because everyone seemed to understand it but me. What are these snacks that come in when you're brewing? Because I have no idea.
So some vendors, if you order a pallet of malt, they may throw a little candy bar in there or a nut butter. It's just, there's things that vendors do that, when some guy's sweating their butt off, unloading the grain, they go, ooh, candy, it's just little surprises we get from our suppliers.
I was really expecting something worse than that. I was like, oh man, this is something nasty that y'all are talking about and laughing. So I'm glad it's
I can tell you stories about Lagunitas, and one of my buddies who used to work for Lagunitas used to hide things in pallets and then ship it to wherever they were going to be doing, beer dinners and things like that, go to the distributor and then take their little baggie out of the pallet that they shipped for the week. And yes, that's how they smuggled their candy around.
Yeah.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, that's a good way to get the nose candy shipped.
Yeah, exactly.
Really easy. So I want to go back to the whole 10th and Blake purchase. I'm in Arizona, and right around the same time that you got purchased, I shouldn't say bought out, our biggest brewery, Four Peaks, got bought by AB InBev. What, and to this day, even though they're the biggest craft beer, or I guess they're not craft beer anymore, the biggest beer producer in the state of Arizona and have the biggest selling beer in the state, people still to this day will not touch their beer because of it. What were the people who were fans of your beer, or even just regular casual beer drinkers, what was their reaction when that all came out with Terrapin?
Honestly, it was more of a pushback when so basically, long story short, they gave us a loan to buy out our investors that were trying to take our company from John and I, right? So at the end of that year, we kind of looked around and went, okay, we can go to a bank to try to pay them back. Well, that doesn't make sense because you're taking that loan and paying off another loan, you're still broke. We can go to another brewer and say, hey, would you like to buy, the shares from them? But I'm sure any brewer would say, yeah, now we want 70% of your company. Or we can turn that loan into equity, which we did. And that was more of a pushback. I think people, when we sold completely, people were like, okay, that was a no-brainer, right? So, did we get some pushback? Yeah, I guess. But, for me, I mean, honestly, this is my 401k, right? This is, if you will, my golden parachute. What did you want me to do, right? I mean, John and I started this business on credit cards, right? For the first 5 years, I didn't get paid, right? I mean, this is what you do, right? If I made computer chips and Hewlett Packard bought me out for $1 gazillion, people would be standing on their chairs and applauding me. Right. So I kind of chuckle when you've got, little neckbeards in their basement going, hey, Terrapin sucks because they're bought out by Molson Coors. Hey, Ma, can you make me another grilled cheese sandwich? Really? That's what's happening? I mean, come on, let's be honest. Right. I mean, I would do it again 10 times. I mean, I didn't expect it. Right. I got into the business because I love to make beer. I didn't think I could make any money at it, but I'm okay. I'm doing great. Terrapin's in great shape. I'm fine. I can retire tomorrow. And, I'm still doing what I love. I still make every single recipe for Terrapin Beer Company. That is my job. That is what I've done since day one. Once I can't do that anymore, there's no sense of me being with the company.
That makes sense. Now, did you have specific demands like that still being in control when the buyout happened?
No, but I think everybody in the organization knew my role, right? So my role has not changed since day one. And I think if you kind of disrupt that apple cart, then Terrapin's not the same Terrapin anymore. Why would you pay millions of dollars for a company just to go in and muck it up because you can, sure. But then there's no authenticity anymore, right? And we live in a college town, and the kids they're not stupid, right? Yeah, we're owned by a big brewery, but Spike is still there, and Spike still does the recipes, and Dustin is there, and Dustin was our second employee. It wasn't like they all swooped in and all these suits came in, and everybody at the top is different, and there's wheelbarrows of cash, going into the brewery. It's not like that. We don't make any money. We don't get any new toys. That's it. And that's just how it is. We have to be worth our salt to get rewarded. We're a business, so.
And that's something a lot of people forget when they're all of a sudden like, I'm not drinking that anymore because so-and-so owns them now. It's one of the worst examples. It used to seem to be a lot worse. And we could talk about that. Going way back to the beginning of the show, we used to hear about people, anything that came up like that, like the Ballast Point. You brought up the Ballast Point purchase. People all of a sudden like, I can't drink that beer anymore. And you go there today, it's owned by a completely different brewery, and it's still just as good as it was, and it's still packed. So those people are usually.
I have to scratch, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I kind of scratch my head because people are mad at me because I own a beer company that's owned by a beer company. So if I was owned by Mobil or Texaco, that's okay. Or a fracking company or a company that shoots baby seals to make mink coats, that's okay. But I can't be owned by a beer company. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
Well, let's not use the baby seal reference, but maybe I was going to say Monster Energy. Monster Energy owns Canarchy, and they're still considered craft today.
Yeah, and our good buddies Sweetwater down the road is owned by Tilray, right? I don't know. Do you really deep dive in every craft brewery on the planet? Do you go in and go, who's your parent company? Who are you owned by? Right?
Oh, there are people that do.
I'm really happy to be owned by a brewing company. I can pick up the phone and go, hey man, I'm having a trouble with this yeast, blah blah blah. I can send it off to the lab. I can do this and that. I don't get it. I don't get the thing.
Back when we started the show in 2015, we actually had an app creator on our show that you would launch the app and you would scan a SKU at a grocery store and it would tell you who owned the business. So at that point, Founders, I think, just announced their 35% or whatever sale to San Miguel. And so it would say San Miguel owns 35%, or Goose Island is owned by Anheuser-Busch, or so it would have all of these things if you scan the SKU. The app no longer exists, but for back during the craft beer explosion, people cared a lot more. I think it's not as bad as it once was, but I mean, I'm sure. If you're smart enough, you stay off of social media and Untapped, but I'm sure you'll still see it. But it doesn't make sense to us anymore.
I agree. And honestly, if somebody is sitting in their mother's basement ragging on Spike because he sold out to the big bad wolf, okay, bro, go eat another cheese sandwich. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
Go get a job.
You weren't there. You were not there maxing out your credit cards, right? Trying to launch a business with no money. I remember John and I had to pay at Frederick Brewing Company. We had to buy a whole thing of silo malt for $40,000 or whatever it was to get our beer made. It was just amazing. Like, I ate ramen I thought I was out of college. I was eating ramen back then. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So it's just like, I don't know, man. No good deed, I guess. But, people are going to think what people think, and that's fine. I mean,
how dare you succeed?
It is what it is.
I'll tell you one nice thing about it. I live in Indiana, and I just went down to the liquor store, and there was some Terrapin beer on the shelf there, and that didn't used to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're in what I think states now. And it's tough. I mean, as you know, I mean, you guys talk to craft brewers all the time. As you expand, the farther you get away from your home market, the less relevant you are, right? So if I try to, God forbid, I would go, okay, Terrapin's launching in Colorado tomorrow. Well, who the hell's drinking that, man? They've got a couple hundred breweries right in the state, right? Why am I drinking this stuff?
Right.
So it's a tough business, man. It's really tough. As you guys know, I mean, it's not only beer anymore. We're battling with seltzers, and we're battling with RTDs, and we're battling with,
Well, can you expand on that a little bit more? Because Terrapin did come into Michigan and exit Michigan within the last, I believe, 5 years or so, both coming in and leaving. Was that just like a 10th and Blake test run? Like, hey, is Terrapin going to kind of do well here or not? Or was it like you had full intention of moving to the state and then it didn't really catch on?
Well, I think, when you're starting to go up there, up north, like Milwaukee, Wisconsin is one of our biggest markets. I think it's our third, right? I think it's Georgia, Florida, Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. But you're already up there, right? So if a truck is going up there, okay, well, what's another stop, right? But the landscape has changed so much. Like 15, 20 years ago, it was like, hey, my name's Bob. I'm the East Coast rep for Sam Adams. Well, it's not like that anymore, right? You've got 10 reps in Florida. You got 5 reps in Georgia. You got 3 in Connecticut, 8 in Boston. It's nuts. You just can't have that anymore. So to effectively launch a brand in another state, the distributor is going to go, how many people you putting in the market, right? So not only do you have to pay those people, you got to get your beer out there. So it's a lot harder to launch a brand in different markets, and some of them don't resonate. And if they don't resonate, if it's not making any money, you got to pull back, right? So, sometimes it's a home run, sometimes it's not.
You just brought up a good point that I think a lot of people forget too. Craft beer really is, I like to think about it like college football was before college football got destroyed. It really is a regional thing. So like, it wouldn't make sense personally for you to bring your beer out here to Arizona. It's just like the football, the Pac-10 out here is gone now because West Coast teams are playing in the Midwest, things like that. It does kind of ruin it. People don't care as much. You're absolutely right. So I do agree with that.
But when we launched in 2002, that was the only way we can do it, right? So once we kind of not saturated Georgia, but needed more sales, okay, we had to go to South Carolina. We had to go to North Carolina. Now what I see a lot of breweries doing, or newer breweries, is like, okay, we've got a 20-barrel system in Georgia, and then we put another 20-barrel system in Tennessee, and then we put another 20-barrel system in South Carolina, right? So instead of building this humongous, like we've got a 100-barrel system, right, that supplies beer to all of our markets. So like I said, how am I local in Colorado? I'm not, unless I might put a tasting room there or another brewery, right? So if you open smaller ones in different regions, I think it resonates more with people because they can actually physically see that you are there instead of just launching your beer there, right? I kind of call it like the Home Depot and Lowe's, right? I don't think there'll ever be another Home Depot and Lowe's. Just like I don't think there'll be another Sierra Nevada and New Belgium. I think that's it. I mean, who's gonna be up there but those two guys, right? There may be, but I mean that's a hard thing to do, right? And with Sierra and New Belgium coming from New Belgium coming from the Midcoast, to the east, where Sierra came from west and put a facility on the East Coast. Well, that saved them a lot of money in shipping, right? So that's how they did all that. And it was just a genius move for Ken to do, because now all of the East Coast, or, how they split it up, I'm not sure. But, trucking and gas or diesel and all that, it's a lot of money to ship beer, right? So you have to be really strategic. But who the hell is going to build another brewery like Sierra Nevada has done in Carolina? It's crazy. Have you guys been there? It's freaking Malt Disney World, man. It's awesome. It's amazing,
I don't know if any of the other guys have. I haven't been to any of their locations. Ken, Wendy, Rob, have you?
No, I haven't. It's on.
No, I got too drunk in downtown Asheville to go to the brewery itself.
I tried to get to Asheville, but they were having some issues with some weather, so they were shut down that day. But I do plan to go back and do the tour there because I was also impressed with the sustainability stuff that they do.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, and I've been to breweries all over the world, and that definitely is one of my favorites. They just been a fantastic job.
We had a long conversation with Alaskan a few months ago about their distribution because they distribute from Alaska, and that's the only place they brew. And,
right.
Yeah. They've got to get out because there's lots more market out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to go by.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. Yeah.
Now, one more question here for me. I'm going to pass it back to Ken. See if he has any final questions here for you. I was looking at your beer list of what you currently make, what's usually available. You really are IPA heavy. What keeps you leaning towards IPAs and not other styles?
Because everybody, if it doesn't say IPA, it doesn't sell. I mean,
okay, that's an actual fair question or fair answer.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on those beer sites, right? Oh man, what a great Kolsch if it had some hops in it. Really? I mean, this beer would have been fantastic. I love all beers if it was dry hopped. I'm like, what? So. Yeah, I mean, IPA is king. IPA is here to stay. I mean, we do a fantastic Mexican lager called Los Bravos in the Georgia market. We call it Cerveza outside of Georgia. I think you guys talk to a lot of brewers. When I sit down with brewers, we want a lager, man. I mean, if I'm walking into a brewery or brew pub, I'm ordering your pills or I'm going to see if you got a Kolsch beer or a Helles. Because you can't hide behind that shit, right? I mean, dude, seriously, I can dump a bunch of hops into a freaking beer and call it an IPA, right? So for me, give the people what they want, right? And I think our portfolio, like you said, you looked at it, right? So our flagship is Hopscutioner, West Coast IPA, right? We've got a Mexican lager, right? We've got a fruity IPA called Luau, passion fruit, orange, guava. We've got a hazy. Right. We've got Deperception, which is a 9% behemoth. We just came out with this guy. Right. So this is our Coastal Daydream. This is a little West Coast IPA, about 6.3% ABV. You can only get it in our mix pack. So, don't get me wrong. And don't forget, we do stouts. Right. So we've got Wake and Bake. We've got Moo-Hoo. We do a bunch of different fun stuff. But at the end of the day, people like IPAs. That watermelon goza we do is fantastic, and people drink a lot of that. Rec Ale, which is our little session IPA. So yeah, I mean, we're known for it. Those are the shoes we wear, and that's what we do.
Yeah, fair answer. You didn't try to dance around it like a lot of people do, so I appreciate that.
Not at all. And we've got another brewery in the Brave Stadium, and those guys experiment with a lot of lagers and other things. But I mean, when you're trying to make beer that people want and trying to figure out the styles, it all comes back to IPA. It just grows all the time. I mean, who would have thunk that people are going to convenience stores and buying 19.2s of 9.5% IPAs?
Well, I talk about that all the time. Voodoo Rangers cornered that market.
Why?
Found the secret sauce with the gas stations and the convenience stores, and to the point Sierra Nevada jumped on it. So you're absolutely right.
But honestly, if I'm at a show or a venue, the last thing I want is something in a 19.2 can. I'd rather drink fucking 10 ponies because they stay cold, right? I get down to there, I'm like, I don't want that. The most I want is like 16 ounces, right? 19.2, I'm like,
those extra 3 ounces. That's
Even 16s on the high end, yeah.
16s are tough too, yeah. I mean, give me a 12 ounce. I'll buy 2. I'll be back. I got a credit card. I can buy 2.
16's perfect for a stout. It warms up. You get all the flavor profiles.
Yeah,
exactly.
Is it okay for a lager though, like a 2.4 of a lager, like a Labatt Light or a Molson High Life?
Dude, if people drink it, put whatever you want in there. I don't care. You just never know what people are going to drink, man. I mean,
for me, like
out there.
I do see what's out there, but over like the last year, I've been more prone to go buy because they're only like $1.50 a piece, two 24-ounce cans of Labatt Light.
They're cheaper than water.
And I'm like,
than a bottle of water.
Yeah.
I'll have one can tonight, one can tomorrow night, and then I had a beer while I watched a movie, and I drink it fast enough to where it doesn't warm up. But at that point, I don't want another one because I just had 2 24s and I'm good to go.
Right. I mean, I'm not ashamed. I mean, dude, I drink High Life. High Life's my go-to, right? In a banquet. I mean, not because they're in my portfolio, but they're good beers. It's Banquet. Who doesn't like a freaking Banquet? Look at the bottle. It's so cute.
We've done this show well enough that everyone that's listened to knows that brewers, like when a brewer wants to go and drink a beer, they're going for a High Life. They're going for a PBR. They're going for a Stroh's, like old style. Like they are not. They don't want something hoppy, bite you in the face. Malt. They just want a beer flavored beer.
Yeah. You should see me at the Molson Coors convention every year. I just go around to people and go, why is High Life a discounted? Why isn't this a premium beer? Look at it. It's the champagne of beers, man.
Exactly.
Stop telling them that. I want to see
brand. I mean, why? Look at it. No, I hear you, man. But usually I start out with a lager. If I'm starting my night out, I'm going to get something crisp, cool, refreshing, and then I'll just start to build. And then by the end of the night, I'm having a stout or a bourbon or two.
There's a bar out here in Detroit that you can get 40 ounce of Miller High Life. And depending on how many people are there, they give you shot glasses and you pour little shots of High Life and you drink the High Life and share it as a community bottle.
It's the best way to do it.
Interesting.
I feel like we've done that before too. I think.
I'm gonna call you out right now. You got into an argument with someone about the group Ace of Base.
It wasn't me and him that were drinking.
Really?
40. It was her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dan went off about Ace of Base. He has more Ace of Base knowledge than I do of any band. I
really do.
I saw the sign and I realized we needed to get out of there.
That's the end of my Ace of Base knowledge.
All Dan wants is another baby.
No,
it's gone tomorrow. No, Dan's like, no more kids. Enough. All right. Those are the puns of Ace of Base for tonight. As we finish every single as we finish every episode, we all ask you one question that's more fun, lighthearted, and I will start it off with the question. So Terrapin actually has origins to the Grateful Dead. You are a self-admitted deadhead, following the band, watching their shows. But if it was 2024 and you were opening up a brewery, what is the band you would probably lean into for the name of your brewery? What are you listening to right now, other than the Grateful Dead?
Oh man, if I had a name of frickin' brewery, Crumbin, that'd be a tough one. I don't think anybody would get into that. But are you guys familiar with Crumbin?
We're not.
No. Okay. Check them out, man. They're a 3-piece band I think they're out of Houston or Austin.
They're out of Houston.
Yeah, KHRAUNGBIN. But yeah, dude, I listen to anything from Beethoven to Black Sabbath, right? So that is a super hard question. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think the Dead ever goes out of style. I mean, shit. Well, look, they're doing what, a 30-day run at the Sphere, or something like that, 15-day run. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My musical tastes are all over the map. I mean, I grew up with heavy metal. I got into prog rock. I'm a huge Rush fan. Yes, Genesis. I just saw one of my favorite artists, Sarah Jaraz, the other night. She's a great singer out of Nashville. I just saw Sierra Hull, Sierra Farrell. I'm into bluegrass. So that is such a crazy question for me because if you follow me on Twitter, my hashtag is beer, food, music, travel, and that's what I do. So it's tough.
Everyone up here in Michigan is all on the Billy Strings.
I love Billy Strings, but please stop playing big venues. I saw Billy about a month ago in Atlanta, and the venues are too big. I love him, but it's bluegrass, man. I want to be on somebody's front porch listening to bluegrass. And granted, good for Billy because he is selling out these big venues, which is fantastic. But for me, I want to be like 30 people, right? Or, I digress. It's just, if it's a 500-seat venue, 1,000-seat venue, but good for him. But it's a little tough with bluegrass, right? Metallica can fill a room real easily. Bluegrass, it's a little tougher.
Is that like that Blues Traveler band? Is that what we're talking about?
No, Billy Strings is not like Blues Traveler.
No.
I have partied with John Popper, though, at Bonnaroo years and years ago. Yeah, good dude.
Nice.
All right. Well, Dan, what's your final question?
Yeah, we'll keep it simple, but this kind of just piqued my interest. How do you end up with your nickname Spike?
Well, I have a hat on. This really isn't a good representation, but I really do have spiked hair. So when I went to college as a freshman, I had a crazy, God, it was back in the 80s, right? So that's when Alex Lifeson had that like mullet, right, from Rush, and Geddy had, it was like that short on top, mullet in the back kind of thing. So I had that, but it was spiked hair. So all of the seniors and upperclassmen nicknamed me Spike. When I graduated college, it was up in Connecticut. I moved to Florida for a couple of years, too hot and flat. I had a fraternity brother and a job offer in Atlanta. So when I moved to Atlanta, he knew me as Spike, and it just stuck. So, yeah, Spike comes from the hair.
Hey, the mullet is coming back. So if you ever want to go back to it.
I've had 3 ponytails in my life. I think I'm good. Yeah, I've had rat tails. I think I'm all right.
Wendy, your final question. Wendy, you're muted. Congratulations.
Damn it. Damn it.
Almost made the entire show.
Now. So if you were going to build another tap room, what state would you put it in?
Wow. Does it have to be a state? can I go out of the country? I don't know. I mean, God. That's a crazy question. God, I really do love Nashville. There's a lot of breweries there, though. I don't know. It'd have to be by water. Maybe Myrtle Beach or something.
There is a lot of water in Michigan, just saying.
We are surrounded by it.
Yeah.
There's also tons of snow. So
something tropical. I mean, I do I do have a house down in Costa Rica, but honestly, I'm not building another brewery. I think I'm good. Been there, done that.
All right, Rob.
First, I want to point out that Terrapin anagrams to rare pint, in case you didn't know. But after that, we're almost
at it. What are you sitting over there doing, Rob? Hold on.
I don't know.
He's playing Wordle.
Yeah, I guess.
These are important things, we're getting older. We got to keep our minds sharp. But we're almost out of time. And can you think of any bands from Athens?
Oh, shit. Well, hey, Widespread Panic, of course. But the Athens just got a new hockey team. Did you hear what the name is?
No.
It's the Athens Rock Lobsters.
Glad Athens has a fucking hockey. Sorry, pardon my language.
The Rock Lobsters, man. B-52's Rock Lobsters.
Spike, we should have mentioned this. Dan is in Phoenix, who just lost his hockey team, and he's hurting a little bit right now.
Thank God Athens, Georgia has a hockey team.
I didn't know you were a hockey fan because 9 times out of 10, when I do an interview, I mean, this gray Steelers hat just kind of matched my shirt, but I always wear my Hartford Whalers hats. I have about 6 Hartford Whalers hats. I grew up in Connecticut. I saw Gordie Howe play with the Whalers. It is the best logo in professional sports, hands down. Come at me. Anyway,
yeah. I think
Whalers
the was a little bit better, but shout out to the Hurricanes for blowing this season. Good luck at winning the cup next year. Anyways, no, all in fun. Yeah, huge.
Yeah, of course.
Personally, so that's actually cool that you guys have a team there.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But I mean, you got Patterson Hood, Drive-By Truckers. I mean, there's been so many bands that have come out of Athens, and it's a great town. You guys, I mean, Wendy, you've been here. I mean, it's just, I'm so glad we've got and built a brewery here in Athens, Georgia, because it's a fantastic town. It really is.
All right. Terrapin Brewing. Where can they find you? Where are your facilities? Where can they find you online?
So the mothership is in Athens, Georgia. We also have another facility at Truist Park where the Braves play in Atlanta. You can find us online at terrapinbeer.com, and you can follow us at all the socials. I'm sure you can Google it and figure it out, because I don't follow us, but I have to, but I don't know how to follow us because it just comes up in my feed. So yes, but we are all on the Google machine and the Twitter machine and whatever else machines you guys got out there.
All right. We will be off next week. We will be back in 2 weeks with Brewocracy, the brewery out of New Zealand. That is right. The country of New Zealand. Saturday afternoon for them. Friday night for us, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.